For the past 11 months, I've been in love with a music genre. If you have seen any of my audio player reviews over on PocketPixel, you may have seen that I've been listening to Eurobeat. I went from watching a Vinesauce Joel stream on a bootleg NES game to owning 3 iPods, a record player, 1 Fio, and having over 1,500 Eurobeat and Italo Disco songs stored on it. So in this video, let's talk about Eurobeat. What is Eurobeat? What is its history? How did my obsession happen? My CD and vinyl collection? Let's talk about all the things that I love about it and talk about my particular love for one Eurobeat artist. Now, you cannot talk about the history of Eurobeat before first talking about the amazing genre of Italo Disco. Italo Disco, as the name suggests, was a music genre that originated from Italy but was popular all around Europe in countries such as Germany, Spain, Poland, Russia, and likely many others. It never really took off in the UK though, as demonstrated by the Russian YouTuber NoFocus to a British YouTuber balling bankrupt.
We have these like discotheque 80-х.
Yeah.
And like they would invite like Sissy Catch.
Right, no idea who that is.
You don't know Sissy Catch?
No.
Really?
Modern Talking, Ryan Paris, CC Catch, Fancy, Grant Miller, Sabrina, Mike Marine, Eddie Huntington, Gazebo, Savage, Leon Ross, Blue System, London Boys, Joy are just some of the examples of Italo Disco and Eurodisco. This genre originated in the 1980s, when clubs looked like this, and the music sounded like this. It can't be understated what a massive genre Italo Disco and Eurodisco were, and in one small part were due to people like Mauro Farina. Now, the history of Italo Disco and Eurobeat are huge, and even after being interested in this genre for nearly a year, I still don't know the full story. However, I've done a lot of research on Farina, and therefore this video leans more towards him and the earlier parts of Eurobeat than the more recent history. But anyway, Mauro Farina had his breakthrough with the highly popular group Radiorama. Radiorama, sung by Farina and Clara Moroni, were hugely popular in Germany, Italy, Russia and Poland, being played by DJs in discotheques and even at concerts. Radiorama falls in the middle line between Italo Disco and Eurobeat, with it generally being regarded as Italo Disco due to its place in time, as the first and second Radiorama albums came out in 1986 and 1987. Other notable Farina groups that he has worked on at the time include Atrium, Alan Barry, Joe Yellow and Cuckoo, all of which were distributed by the German label ZYX, who originally coined the Italo Disco name and ran a very popular vinyl compilation called Italo Boot Mix. Radiorama and in a small part groups like Atrium were one of the reasons that Eurobeat began to slowly exist. Speaking of publishing companies, at the point where Italo Disco and Eurobeat sounded pretty similar, the Asian market got interested in the genre. Pre-1989, Alpha's That's Eurobeat series featured a lot of artists such as Ken Nashlow, Michael Fortunati, Grant Miller, Magazine 60, Fancy, etc. Artists that are more known as Italo Disco artists than Eurobeat artists. Going into 1989, however, Italo Disco's popularity started to fall down, with ZYX's Italo Boot Mix only lasting up until 1991. At this point, 1989 to 1991, I can say that this was the most iconic part of Eurobeat's history, as this was when the genre really started to pick up pace. In 1989, Eurobeat songs, while still vaguely resembling Italo Disco, had their own special identity. Songs like Boom Boom Dollars, Cha 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 Cha, Take a Chance, Bad Desire. This is where we can start to hear a speed increase from Italo Disco, and where we can start to hear the iconic jumpy synth sound which lasts a few years. At this point in 1989 and 1990, That's Eurobeat series shifted drastically in sound, going into now what is recognizable as Eurobeat. But at this time there was another compilation series that was starting, one that has lasted up until this day. This series is called Super Eurobeat. This series was originally created by the record label named Beat Freak, with the first 8 albums comprised of songs by Time Records, at which Farina worked at after leaving Fleet Records. And man, what an incredible few albums this series had. This first album is the reason Eurobeat still exists today, albeit thanks to Avex Trax, who took over the series and included a lot more record labels outside of Time Records. Many of the songs for the Avex releases of Super Eurobeat included songs created by Giancarlo Pasquini, I'm so sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, who you may be more familiar with as Dave Rogers. Nowadays, Rogers is known as the initial D meme man, with songs like Deja Vu and Spaceboy, but back then his style of work was much different. As well as producing music with his label A Beat C, he was also helping out over at Flea Records, producing many new albums for groups that Farina abandoned when he moved to Time. And while I'm not a fan of his later music, I think his early Eurobeat stuff, as well as the stuff he made for Flea Records, is actually really good. He even got to work with the legendary Gianni Coraini, also known as Ken Laszlo, who started out as an Italo Disco star, then moved over to Eurobeat, working with both Farina under the Ken Laszlo name and with Pasquini in various groups, both under Flea Records and 8-Beat C, with some notable aliases including Cuckoo, Malcolm J. Hill, DJ Energy, K.L. Jones, Body Power, Gian Corain, and more. I think it should be noted at this point, if you haven't figured it out by now, different groups/aliases did tend to be used by multiple people. As well as Eurobeat, Coriani went on to make 90s Eurodance, as well as working under Farina's Asia Records, singing as Alvin in the late 2000s. Anyway, back to Pasquini. Even with these songs, which were released in 1991, we can hear a further shift with Eurobeat, with it continuously getting faster and faster. By about 1993-1994, Eurobeat started to sound closer to what people know it as nowadays. Okay, fine, I think it's time to talk about the reason why you're all actually here. Let's talk about Initial D. Initial D was an anime series created in 1998 about a tofu delivery boy who uses his dad's iconic 1983 Truno GT Apex AE86 to do the deliveries. The deliveries end up training him to be an extremely good driver, and his friends introduce him to the world of toad racing, which is driving around extremely tight courses around mountains. The main character, Takumi, ends up loving street racing and ends up wanting to be the best driver in his prefecture. Or at least that's what Wikipedia says. You see, I actually never watched Initial D, and chances are maybe you haven't as well. The music from Initial D leaked from just being a thing that fans enjoyed into the world of the wider internet, including meme culture. Initial D was likely the first time fans heard Eurobeat music, and with the amount of sharing and memeing the songs and clips from the series received, the music and driving became an iconic part of the anime and became an iconic part of the meme culture. You have at least once in your life heard Running in the 90s if you're a Gen Z or a young millennial. Artists like Max Gobry, originally Farina and later Maurizio de Giorgio, Nico, who's also the same person, Mega Energy Man, Leslie Parrish, also known as Clara Moroni, the girl from Radiorama and one of the most famous female vocalists of Eurobeat, were some of the people that were featured on Initial D. The Japanese already liked Eurobeat, and Initial D gave it that extra boost that allowed it to live further than most music genres' lifespans, even if by this time Eurobeat sounded drastically different to how it used to back in 1989, with more diverse sound due to the amount of labels producing it, and due to a gradual shift to a faster and faster BPM. This shift onto a more diverse space within Super Eurobeat allowed for other artists to experiment and set on what Eurobeat should be, and these artists are the ones who continuously kept releasing Eurobeat music year after year, until the 250th release in 2018, where the series unfortunately stopped. However, we did get a Best of Eurobeat 2019 CD, and in 2020, Eurobeat 2020, a 30th anniversary CD of Eurobeat songs, were released, with labels Delta and Sinclair Style being the main ones producing the new songs, as well as High-End G-Attack and Asia Records, and Avex's own artists being thrown in the mix. I'm actually redoing this whole bit because I was talking about Brad Sinclair and I don't really think I did him justice, and I don't think I really did Dave Rogers justice early in the video, so I'm just going to talk about those two for a little bit. Brad Sinclair originally worked with Dave Rogers at 8-Beat C. They actually produced a lot of songs together, which is pretty cool. Like, I didn't realize Brad Sinclair was around since the 90s, but he was. And not only that, Brad Sinclair worked on some of the most famous Eurobeat songs, including Nico, Night of Fire, and Max Covery's Running in the 90s. Maurizio de Giorgio, he was only just a singer. Brad Sinclair was the producer of these songs, and that's pretty awesome. Both him and Rogers actually made pretty decent songs at 8-Beat C for Super Eurobeat. I've been listening to a lot of songs from just Dave Rogers, and yeah, he's actually much better than I initially thought he was. Like, there's a lot of songs of his that I'm liking, especially Desire. Desire is fantastic. I am in love with that song. It is definitely my favourite song of his so far. And yeah, Brad Sinclair is not bad either. And obviously Brad Sinclair is one of the ones that are still actively contributing for Super Eurobeat, which is pretty awesome. And he's just like Rogers, both of them are still active in their fan bases. You know, Brad Sinclair is active on Discord. You know, you can at him and ask him a question, although don't do that. But you could, in theory, do that, and he will just come in and talk to you, and that's pretty cool for someone who's kind of so big to just be so active. You know, it's not like Farina. Farina just doesn't really talk to his fans at all, really. So it's pretty awesome that Sinclair is like that. And in the recent interview he did for the Super Eurobeat 2020 disc, I really like his energy. I don't know if he was just played off for the Japanese audience or if he's actually like that, but he has the kind of love for making music that someone who's been doing it for 20 years, you know, you wouldn't expect them to have. Like, he sounds like he's just starting out, like, oh my god, I'm gonna make so many of these songs and they're gonna be so amazing, and you're gonna love to hear it. And I love that energy. You don't really get that energy nowadays, but he seems like a really good guy. Anyway, back to the main video. Alright, one more thing. So there's this one artist that I haven't spoken about because I don't really hear many people speaking about him, but his name is, and I'm so sorry about the pronunciation, Giacomo Maiolini. He's the founder of Time Records, and he's made a lot of good songs. I didn't realize how many songs of his I actually care about, but then I went to Discogs and I've got 18 of his songs in my want list. He also pumped out a lot of songs during the Super Eurobeat phase when Farina left and Time Records was back on Super Eurobeat, and his songs are pretty good too. Although I don't really hear people talk about him anymore, but that's probably because he's moved on to just doing pop stuff. He runs Time Records after all. They're big. If you have a CD collection, you might have a CD that's being published by Time Records. I know I do. And as to how I discovered Eurobeat, it was with an old stream from Vinesource Joel, where he played a bootleg game on the NES, which was a part of Dance Dance Revolution. This is the first time I've heard of Dance Dance Revolution, and I love the music. Songs from my childhood like Doobie Doob, Hero, and Butterfly. But I also heard a song that I never heard before, and I loved it, and it was Boom Boom Dollars. A few years later, this song randomly popped up in my head. I was going to show it to my dad, but I forgot, and it took me a few more months to do so. And when I did, I got into researching who made the song and learned about Radiorama. My dad has told me about Radiorama before, but I never realized it's the same people that made Boom Boom Dollars. And that's just how it started. My dad was a teen in Poland in the 80s, so he knows all about Italo Disco and early Eurobeat, so for the past year or so now we've been exchanging songs, buying singles and albums on vinyl and CD, and he's actually collected a sizable collection of Italo Disco and early Eurobeat, and this perfectly takes me on to showing you guys our collection. So here's the collection that I've got at uni. I've got Radiorama 4th and 5th. I also have the 3rd one, which I'll just splice in because I can't be bothered to find it. This one's the Italian one, this one's the Korean one. The 5th was never actually released in Italy on vinyl. We can see some stickers here. I believe KBS stands for like Korean Broadcasting Station or something like that. And it's got a barcode, so maybe this was used in a radio station, maybe they played it. I don't really know, I don't know enough about radio broadcasting to know what the significance of the sticker is, especially Korean broadcasting. Stormy Weather by Lisa. I've discovered this song in the Eurobeat collection volume 3 from ZYX. It's actually quite a nice song, it was cheap to pick up, so I got it. King Kong and Jungle Girls, Boom Boom Dollars, the Italian release. I just had to get it. This is what got me into Eurobeat, and I really wanted it on vinyl, and even though it's like 30 quid, I had to get it. It's an okay album, I like the music, but only Boom Boom Dollars and Walkie Talkie sounds good, everything else sounds really muffled, and I'm not really sure why. Even on the really high quality CD version I've got, some songs just don't sound very good. So I'm just going to show you guys this quickly, even though this isn't actually Eurobeat related, but still disco. I've got a lot of CC Catch and Sandra albums, most of the ones that matter, well, all of the ones that matter from both artists. Oh my god, I actually forgot I had this. So this is the Italo Beat Megamix Volume 1. This is a megamix of all the Flea Records songs released around the time of this vinyl. So we've got, King Kong and the Jungle Girls, It's So Fun. We've got Cuckoo, You Can Set Me Free. King Kong and Jungle Girls, Lies. Malcolm J. Hill, Take a Chance, such a good song. Cuckoo, Upside Down. Venice House Money was popular, but I don't like it. Lala Jump to the Music, that was also popular, I don't like it. But these are very popular Flea Records songs in one megamix. Okay, let me go through the vinyls that I've got here at home. Some of these most of these have been given to me by my dad. Got Ken Laszlo, Don't Cry. I really like his first album, so it's nice to have a single from that. I think we have the full album downstairs. I have, no, not you, Ace of Base. Good, you go away. So I have a couple of Boom Boom Beat records here, Boom Boom Beat episode 10. We've got, the one I know is Bomber's Super Bowl. That's quite a classic song. Got another one here. This one is That's Eurobeat News 03. This one has Hi Hi Mazinga. That's such a good song as well. Then we've got this Boom Boom Beat record, which has such a nice sleeve. It's got the best of Farina songs. Anyway, Boom Boom Beat News 01. I don't know any single song from this record. I just love the cover. Or the sleeve, if you will, because that's its actual name. Vanessa, Breaking My Heart. I haven't heard this one yet. This is a donation. Antonella, Mamma Mia. I have heard this one. I really like it. It's just Mamma Mia, but in a Eurobeat style. It's quite good. Asia Gang, dedicated to Freddie. Yeah, Antonella again, I think. Cheap. What's this one? Lonely Time, Asia Gang feat Mac, haven't heard this one yet either, just listened to my dad's. King Kong and the Jungle Girls, Love the Angel. Joe Yellow, I'm Your Lover, fantastic album, I really like it. We've got Misery, Never Fall in Love Again, pretty good. We've got New Love by Jenny Key. We've got Lilac Bang Bang. We've got Mike Hammer Divine from the British Loading Bay Records. This sounds amazing. All of these singles like Mike Hammer, Lilac, and Gypsy Queen Call Me as well, they sound incredible. And same with the next record as well, Venice Ever Never. This also sounds pretty incredible. And that's it. That's all my Eurobeat singles. So now let's talk about my dad's singles, my dad's albums, and my dad's CDs. I've got a couple of Bad Boys Blue albums, but I won't show you them all because that's not Eurobeat. We've got London Boys and 12 Commandments of Dance, which is kind of Italo Disco, kind of Eurobeat, kind of neither at the same time. We've got Fancy, that's Italo Disco. We've got More Fancy, more Italo Disco. Leon Ross, more Italo Disco. Best of Radiorama, really good album. Got the second album, and we should have the first album here. Yep. We've got Aliens too, or Aliens if you want to pronounce it like Farina does. That's Eurobeat. Yeah, that's Eurobeat. That's 91 as well, I think. Denero if you want. Grant Miller, Italo Disco. Terrible, ZYX Savage, Grace Hits and Remixes, Italo Disco. You've got Farina's Ken Lashlow, Best of 1990 to 1995. That's Eurobeat. Well, Eurobeat and Eurodance, not very good. More Ken Lashlow. We've got the good old Italo Boot Mix albums that I'm gonna get more like shots of. Got like Best of Italo Disco as well. That's from ZYX. That's also time appropriate. He's got a lot of modern talking as well, which is of course classic Italo Disco as well. Although that's more of Eurodisco, isn't it? Now in terms of my digital collection, I have all the Super Eurobeat albums up until 1993, as well as all of that's Eurobeat. I also have the ZYX Italo Disco 12-inch and 7-inch collections that my dad bought, 700 or so Eurobeat / Italo Disco or ZYX songs, and I have the ZYX Eurobeat collection 1 and 3 that I purchased myself. I also have some other rarities like the Japanese exclusive Greatest Hits of King Kong and Jungle Girls, Cuckoo's Fun Bun, Alan Barry singles, Joe Yellow discography, Atrium singles, and the first 4 Radiorama albums remastered by both Analog Language and Deluxe CD Music. I also have Eurobeat Games collection, a 50-song compilation by Farina of his modern Eurobeat tracks. The problem with me trying to collect songs digitally is that a lot of the record labels just do not care about properly releasing their music again. A couple of Italo Disco and Eurobeat labels shut down, such as Disco Magic, who are the biggest Italo Disco label in Italy, and who also handled Radiorama productions. These labels had financial troubles, and ZYX would buy up the rights to their catalogs. And ZYX does a pretty poor job at releasing songs digitally and physically. Radiorama Greatest Hits and Remixes on vinyl sounds terrible, Savage Greatest Hits and Remixes doesn't sound as good as the original vinyls, Alan Barry in particular digitally sounds horrible. There is no love when it comes to these releases. The 12-inch and 7-inch collections that I own, as well as the Eurobeat collections, do sound much better though, but some versions of these songs don't sound as good as from other sources. Can someone explain to me why Oscar's Superstar sounds like it's 64 kilobits per second, when ZYX could have just downloaded a 320 kilobit per second version online? Or better yet, they could just take care of their own catalogue and make sure that it sounds as good as possible. These blunders by ZYX are so bad that multiple people stepped up to try to release their catalogue in the highest quality. Deluxe CD Music and Analog Language both use 32-bit restoration in order to restore Italo Disco and early Eurobeat to the best quality they can. There's even a Russian seller who makes his own vinyl rips and sells them as CDs. I can't advertise who it is, since what he does is illegal and could land him in jail, but his releases sound fantastic and they're miles ahead of what ZYX tries to do. The other problem is that a lot of labels just don't care for having a full online dump of their catalogs. Time Records, while kind of getting there, is still missing a lot of songs of theirs. Flea Records, while they have most of the singles, they don't have all, and they are missing the albums too. A lot of songs that are available on Das Eurobeat and Super Eurobeat can't be purchased digitally. Asia Records songs from before Eurobeat speeding up, minus a few iTunes albums, haven't been officially published online. Maybe it's due to Disco Magic being bought up, but that doesn't explain the songs from Das Eurobeat being completely impossible to purchase outside of certain ZYX CDs. But then again, this also could be due to Disco Magic purchase. This means that there isn't a lot that can be done if you want to support the artist and listen to their work. Thankfully with modern Eurobeat, since it's still around in one way or another, it can be purchased online. But despite this, a lot of Eurobeat songs have to either be distributed online illegally or shared via YouTube, with efforts from people such as Robiocraft, uploading a massive amount of Eurobeat music onto his YouTube channel and letting the record labels profit by taking ad revenue. Anyway, that's it for this video. This video has gone on for long enough. I know I didn't talk about a lot of other like labels and a lot of other producers, and I didn't really get to talk about modern Eurobeat that much, but it is a massive topic, and honestly I could be here forever just talking about it. So I'm hoping that this has been a good video, and if there's anything that gone wrong in this video as well, please let me know in the comments down below and just let me know your thoughts and opinions. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.